Hello, welcome to Board Games with Niramas. I'm Joseph. I'm here with Drako, but also with my guest Peter here. So we're very happy to say hi to Peter.
Hey, good to see you today. I am super excited. I love dragons. So right away, I am thrilled to be here. Oh, so cute. The people are like, dragons are the bad guy. They're evil, like whatever. I'm like, no, dragons are awesome. Dragons are cute. Like, come
Well,
on.
it depends, I guess. I've been trying to tell Draco that there are bad dragons as well. Like when we played Gloomhaven, we have to kill this big drake. I try to convince him that not all dragons are good.
Yeah, okay, all
So
right.
yeah,
I'll see. I think they just had bad childhood. That's all
yeah,
it was.
yes, that's true. And too much gold interest maybe, or loot.
No, no. You know what? They deserve their gold just like we do. It's fine.
So, do you want to introduce yourself a little bit, Peter, for the viewers that might not, well, for some weird reason, doesn't know who you are?
Well, for many reasons, it's not weird to not know who I am. That's okay. My name's Peter. I'm with the One Stop Co-op Shop. So we are a lot of things right now. So we have a podcast, we have a YouTube channel, and we have a streaming YouTube channel. And just recently, we have a TikTok as well.
Oh,
So lots of different ways to watch One Stop Co-op Shop. And lots of ways to contact us: Twitter, Facebook, and we have our own Discord channel. So lots of stuff with One Stop Co-op Shop. There's 6 of us though, so you might not know me even if you've seen a ton of our videos, because I am 1/6 of the crew.
yeah, I got a little bit confused myself. It must have been a few years ago, right? That it was open up to a bunch of people. It just started with Colin and.
Well, yeah. So Colin started One Stop Co-op Shop YouTube channel, I don't know, 6, 7, maybe
Exact
even 8,
the
8
same
years
week
ago.
that I started, actually. So it's like, yeah, 6 years basically. So.
And we started a podcast at almost the same time. So
Oh,
our
yeah.
original podcast was called Co-op Cast, and it was me and
Oh,
Mike. So it's just
okay. Yeah.
2 of us. And then Jason Perez started like this group for solo and co-op content creators. And we just all met on this like group Discord chat, or I think it was Skype. I forget what it was at the time. But bottom line is, there were a bunch of us, and Colin, really liked our stuff. We liked what he was doing. And then he started a podcast with Steve called One Stop Co-op Shop Podcast.
Yeah.
And we were doing every other week. They were doing every other week. And we're like, this is stupid. We should be on one feed, and just every other week you'll get us or them.
Ah,
So,
yeah.
by the way, I think this might have been before the Dice Tower did this too. So I think they got their idea from us with every other week co-host. I'm just kidding. But yeah, so then we started that way. And then Colin was like, you know what? The YouTube channel is getting overwhelming. I'm not going to do it anymore. So Mike's like, well, I'll do it. And Mike kind of took over the YouTube channel at that point. And then at one point, we decided to rebrand and brand everything to One Stop Co-op Shop. And then when COVID hit, Steve and I were like, you want to start streaming some games? So we decided not to put it in our main channel, because it's just a different group, right?
Yeah.
Like, people who want edited videos are going to want something very different than live streaming videos. So we decided to do a whole new YouTube channel just for the live stream stuff. Yeah, so I mean, now you've got our whole history
Yeah.
basically. And TikTok I've just started because I wanted to be goofy. I mean, I literally have done like 6 videos and I think it's funny, and so I'm going to keep doing it for a while. We'll see how that goes.
Yeah, I mean, I've been following What's Up Go Shop, of course, for all these years, but it's like from time to time, and I know at some point it was like, I think Colin, like, well, as you said, he stepped away a little bit, or he was moving. He had some stuff going on with his family, something like.
Yep.
And then Mike came on, and it always takes a little while before you sort of adapt to a new person.
Yep.
So like now I watch Mike's stuff all the time, but like for a while there didn't watch, and then you did the podcast. Didn't you guys do some kind of review where you were 5 people as well, like five and five or something like that?
Yep. So our format for our podcast, well, at least when Mike and I are on, because it's very different now, because Jason Perez has episodes,
Yeah.
Steve has episodes that are usually from our live stream content. He'll like plug it over on the podcast too. So if you just want the audio version. So there's a lot of us on the podcast now.
Yeah.
It comes out every other week, or I mean, twice a week. It's ridiculous. Like, it's out of control. But yeah, so our original format for our podcast, at least again, when Mike and I are on, is we reviewed the top 5 things we think you need to know about the game.
Yeah.
So we've always done this top 5 format, and Mike just adapted it when he started doing YouTube to a 5 and 5 format where he just covered it all in 5 minutes.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I mean, I like this whole, like, I'm doing a podcast in Swedish since a good while back with 2 friends. So, and then I have the YouTube, and I started like a podcast for the channel as well last year. So like, I like doing this. I like this kind of style where you have different people coming in, cooperating back and forth, and yeah, it's cool.
I mean, we are a podcast about, and YouTube channel about cooperative games. So
yeah, like, that kind of makes sense.
Lots of cooperation would be the best part. And the other thing I forgot to mention, the streaming channel also gave us an opportunity to do multiplayer plays, because most of the stuff on the main YouTube channel is solo plays, even if it is cooperative game. It's usually one person playing multi-handed or whatever else. It's not always the case, but live streaming also gave us an opportunity to do that, and kind of an excuse to, like, okay, if we miss some rules or if we blunder up a little bit, it's okay, it's a live stream.
Yeah, well, I mean, I like that myself with the live streams in that sense. Like, I do a mix, so I prefer to do like pre-recorded, edited, where I can remove my hums and thinking and all that. And also on, especially if I have friends on, so we're playing multiplayer. But live streaming is so relaxed. Like, you're always like, well, it's a live stream, so like if I mess up, it's also so good because then the viewers can tell you, oh, you forgot to take your point or whatever over there. So
yeah. The only problem is the delay, right? Because then you're like half a turn later, and you're like, oh no, I missed that. How do I fix it now?
I wish we could get, like, I don't know, is it even possible to remove that delay? I don't know if that's the thing. I don't think.
I don't think so on YouTube. Twitch might be better. We started on Twitch actually with our streaming content, but then we realized that it's just one of those situations where it's too hard to maintain both audiences.
I don't like Twitch for the whole thing where I don't think it stays more than like 2 weeks, right? Or something
exactly right. So we were downloading every video and then uploading it onto a YouTube stream channel, and I'm like, that's too much. Like, YouTube lets us do it live. Some of the features on Twitch are really nice, and it's really set up for that, and I don't think YouTube is. But bottom line is, at the end of the day, we're doing a lot of work as it is. You said I don't know. I've been doing the podcast for almost 6 years now myself, and it's one of those things where, like, I still edit for like 2-3 hours. I know some people are for like a 1 hour podcast. People are like, oh, I edit in 15 minutes. I was like, I don't know how you guys do that.
No, I still at least twice the time is my usual time span for, because I mean, you have to listen through it as well, right? And then you have to, yeah.
I think some people just remove the and not even all the I think, and the gaps, like where there's just a real mess up. Whereas I try to make it sound good the whole time, because you're listening to it, you have nothing else going on. Well, I mean, you probably have 50 things going on. People are probably falling asleep to it all the time for all I know, but I know that's what I do with my podcast. But I don't know, when you have the visual and the are there, I don't think it's as distracting. When you're just listening, when it's just audio, I really like to have it sound clean.
Yeah, I agree. When I do my Swedish podcast, I have one of my friends, he's doing this sound all the time, and the other friend is always doing this like sound where he's
hopping.
And I'm like telling him, like, drink water before we start. Come on, like, you're dry mouth, So, and then it's down to me to edit it because they don't know how to do it, so I have to do it every week. But,
when I podcast with some of my friends that don't do it as much, we've gotten a little bit better. I mean, trust me, I still have plenty of and other things, but right there's one. When I do it with my friends that don't do it, they slur their into their words, and that is like the hardest thing to edit ever. Like, it's, they'll go and then they'll start talking. It's like, wait, can you breathe between the and your and you're talking? I
get so annoyed. Like, I've been actually, I mean, Brant is saying in the chat here that he never says makes it easier to edit. That's true. Like, I've been actually trying to train myself when I do my playthroughs. So, like, when I'm thinking about something, if I'm doing Arc Nova and I'm thinking about my next move, I'm training myself to just shut up, just be quiet while I'm thinking, because then it's so easy to edit out, right? If I'm sitting there talking to myself and being like, oh, I could do that, or I could do that, like, that's just annoying for myself when I'm going to edit. It's better if I just, like, thinking time is quiet time, when I start talking, then I'm supposed to have something to say. So,
But when you're live streaming, it works the opposite. You have to fill that
yeah.
air
Oh yeah.
because otherwise, it's just people sitting there listening to nothing, watching you stare at your screen, which is awful for live stream. So
Yeah.
I find myself singing a lot.
Oh yeah, I heard about this from the chat here actually. Thomas Clark says that you're supposed to be starting to sing soon randomly. I don't know.
Well, especially when I'm playing by myself, when I'm doing a solo playthrough,
Yeah.
it's like there's some times when I'm thinking and I just start singing, and I don't know. It comes to me when I'm happy, when I'm playing Marvel Champions.
Yeah.
To get it back a little bit on topic.
Oh yeah,
when
we
Marvel
should get
Champions, it makes me super happy, and so songs just come to my head, and I just start
that's
singing.
amazing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's talk about the game. So basically, I mean, I really felt like I needed to invite you to this because I played a lot of Marvel Champions, but it was mostly like up until a few months ago because I've been playing so much other stuff. So I feel like I'm not really updated. Like I assume you have been playing the latest stuff.
Oh yeah. Yeah, no, I played everything. Yeah. We stream Marvel Champions every Friday.
Oh yeah.
For the last 2 years. So we've played everything at least once. And a lot of this stuff we're revisiting, and the newest champions we try to play more. It's so weird with the release schedule though, because there would be 2 champions back-to-back weeks, which was the latest 2 releases we had, and then we don't have anything now for a couple months.
Oh yeah.
So the release schedule is weird, and it leads to weird like timing with trying to do more streams. But
and I'll put the links in the video description for anyone watching afterwards as well, so you can find all the stuff Peter's doing with all the podcast and streams and everything.
No, I will warn you, we do it on Tabletop Simulator, and that's for a couple of reasons. First of all, I do own everything. If you're on video here, I guess. I don't know if you can see. Well,
I'll pull that up here so we have you running in the.
But
I'll have you up here so you're not doubled.
But bottom line is, I do own everything for the game. That's not why we do it on Tabletop Simulator. For me, actually, Tabletop Simulator is a more expensive way to get into it because you have to have a good enough computer to run it, and then you got to buy the program, and then you got to do all the legwork to figure it out. Some people say it's that they find Tabletop Simulator slower. I don't, now that I've gotten good at it. I use it for all my prototypes at this point, like literally any prototype we make, because we're game designers as well. So we'll use it for any and every prototype we do now. I hate doing physical prototypes at this point. And so it's just, I don't know, for me, it's easier. But the big thing is when I watch a playthrough, I don't necessarily know the game as well, unless I guess if I was watching Marvel Champions, but even then, like people are like, oh, I play this card. And I'm like, I have no idea what that card does. And unless you have a special rig where you can zoom in on everything and get like, perfect, reading comprehension, everything else, I just find it hard to see everything, and I want to see if I'm trying to follow along. So with Tabletop Simulator, I literally hold the Alt button down while I'm highlighting over it, and the card becomes full size and covers the whole screen, right? So for me, those are some of the benefits. The biggest benefit, and the other reason that we do it, is I play with somebody, his name's Terrence, and he lives in Texas and I'm in Maryland. So we're halfway across the country from each other. And so we can't do a lot of these live play things if it wasn't for Tabletop Simulator. So I'm sure people guessed during the pandemic, that's, part of the reason we started it was that. And then having Terrence there has really motivated me to keep going every week. I mean, it's not the only thing we stream. The stream channel is not all Marvel Champions, but that is our only reoccurring segment that we do every week. We do that and then a bunch of other videos too.
I would love to join you someday and play against you on. Like I'm really a noob on TTS. Like I don't know the commands and the shortcuts and everything. So for me, it's like I played it a few times and I just feel like it's so slow. But then again, as you say, if you know all those shortcuts or whatnot or the buttons, then I guess it's very smooth. So
yeah, I have a how to TTS video, although I'm using a new mod lately, so I need to make a new how to play on TTS for the newest mod, although it's very similar. Like a lot of the buttons, because the old one was so good, and the only reason we stopped is that person stopped updating it. And so I got most of the features from the old mod I asked the new person to put on, and they've been great. So So it's not going to be very much different than that. But yeah, Tabletop Simulator can be intimidating when you first get on it. And again, this isn't, I'm not advertising, Tabletop Simulator certainly had their good and bad moments in their history. I'm not I'm not here to be an advocate for them, but it does provide us a platform to stream, because honestly, without it, we wouldn't be able to do what we're doing now.
Yeah, as you say, I mean, being able to play, like I play a lot online these days, or like for the last 2 years with friends in the US and so on. I mean, it's not like we can get together and play in any other way. I'll play a lot of Board Game Arena or over Zoom and so on. So
I would love for them to do an official Marvel Champions whatever live. I mean, I bought all the stuff and I'd buy that as well. So I would certainly happily give Fantasy Flight money. And again, it's not like I'm doing it instead of buying the content. I still buy everything. And I mean, I look, if I was doing a live thing with live cards, they'd probably give them to us for free. So I'm not even asking for that for free because I'm doing it on Tabletop Simulator. So, I mean, that's now coming out of my pocket. So it's actually a negative for me to play on Tabletop Simulator, because I'm not able to get the review copies of stuff.
Yeah.
But
have they like approved it somehow? Or, I mean, I think they removed.
No, they haven't. I mean, I honestly haven't talked to them. They send us review copies of plenty of stuff, but I don't ask for Marvel Champion stuff. The original set, the core box, they did send us for free because we covered that on the main channel. But I haven't asked for stuff again because I stream it on TTS. I figure I don't want to ruffle any feathers or shake but I am sure they know about it, because actually somebody else was talking about us, or maybe not us, but they were talking about TTS streams of the game, and they were basically like, yeah, we can't comment on that. So I think it's like, don't ask, don't tell situation. I mean, look, if I could do it in a better way, I would. And if there was an easier way for me to do it, I absolutely would. It's not ideal for me either, but it does make things simpler. And there's so many, we're talking Marvel Champions today, but there's so many Kickstarters and things like that where they're not
prototypes,
limited physical prototypes. And so I'm not taking a physical prototype away when they'll give us links specifically to their TTS mods, even if they're not public. And so we can show it off that way as well. So
I'm happy that somebody's doing it, because I get asked from time to time, like, oh, could you showcase our game like on TTS, that they are going for a Kickstarter? I'm like, I'm not doing TTS. That's like my policy. But I mean, it's good that people are doing different things. I have a table and a studio and everything, so I have the opportunity to do it physical. And for me, like, it's something about card games. Like, I play a lot of Keyforge online, and I love Keyforge, by the way. It just kills it for me. Like, I lose the feeling of having the cards in my hand, shuffling my, like, it's almost like drove me away from Keyforge in a sense, because of the pandemic.
I think the break from Keyforge is really drawing a lot of people away. Honestly, I didn't love the last set.
No, me neither. Set. Yeah.
The one before, though, is my favorite set. The Mass Mutations. Yeah. I loved all the, because it is an easy change. Again, this isn't a Keyforge discussion, but I love Mass Mutations so much, but it wasn't live. We never got to play that set live. It was only online. And then again, I think the Unfathomable set wasn't great. And then to take a break right after that, it's hard. Hopefully they come back strong. I wish they put out 2 Keyforge adventures, which were solo co-op ways to play the game. So I did stream some of that, and it did keep it alive for me for a while. But unfortunately, since they didn't really support that and they didn't come up with new content, I mean, it's just fallen off. So I wish they would have dove hard into the solo co-op aspect of the game, because people were home. They could have played it with their family or their friends or by themselves. Like, we see how well Marvel Champions has done, right? Like, I think part of it is the pandemic. A lot of people are playing solo and co-op right now, and Marvel Champions is my favorite for that.
So let's dive into Marvel Champions a little bit. So what I like to do here in the Game of the Week is to start off with, like, just basic overview of what is the game. Like, if you've never seen the game before, what is it? And so I'll start on Board Game Geek here, and what I'll talk about here. So of course we never mentioned this is Fantasy Flight Games publishing here. The designers here, I must say that I am not really familiar with. Like, I don't know. Do you know them from before? Or I mean, I see that
Yeah, there was actually just I'll plug another podcast. Step into the Portal just did an interview with Boggs and I'm sorry, what's the other designer's name?
So Nate French seems to be
Nate French.
yeah, he seems to be doing all these card games like Arkham
Yep.
Horror, Lord of the Rings, and so on.
Yep. And so
And then
that's their background. They were a
yeah.
lot. They were on Lord of the Rings before, and Boggs. I'm trying to remember what his background was. I know he did some card games as well. I think he might have been on Keyforge even.
All right, he doesn't have anything linked here on Board Game Geek, but I know they don't have all the information, obviously.
Well, right, and again, he probably wasn't a lead designer on
Yeah,
any of that
yeah.
stuff. He was probably just doing some development work in the background.
And then the game itself, of course, is a living card game, so there's tons and tons of expansions for this. So, like, if you get the base box, I would say though that this base box is one of the really good ones as a living card game. Like,
Absolutely.
I mean, there's been so many living card games that has been like, oh, you need to get 2 base boxes, or you need to get 3 or whatever, and then. Like, I think Arkham Horror living card game is like, oh, you can play for an evening, but that's it. Like, what are you supposed to do after that? I don't really like repeating that kind of game when there's a story involved.
Yep.
But with Marvel Champions, you have a lot of content with the actual base box. You can play this for hours and hours and have fun.
Absolutely. With it. And they actually, because of how successful I think this base box was, they went back and revisited the Lord of the Rings card game base box. And now you can just buy one of those as well. So, I mean, a game that's 10 years old, they learned some lessons with Marvel Champions.
Have you gotten the new one?
And applied it. I haven't. So a lot of we did play it though. One Friday we skipped Marvel Champions to play Lord of the Rings, the new one. There's no differences. It is basically the old core box. They just give you 3 of everything, so you can build a deck. You don't have to buy 3 copies of the core set. It's basically the only difference. And
I'm getting mine on Tuesday, I think, or something like that. So
oh, cool.
Yeah. Be exciting.
Cool. I mean, the game, they haven't changed anything about it. They did a little bit of a linked campaign type thing, which they've done with future expansions, but really there's not much new content in it. So it's a game I had played years ago, and kind of bounced off of a little bit. But I mean, I still like the game. It's just Marvel Champions does everything I want from it. For me, a little bit better. But again, I know Terrence, who I stream with every Friday, does not agree with me. He likes Lord of the Rings better.
Okay.
And so, I mean, it's definitely a matter of personal taste for sure. Lord of the Rings is definitely going to be a little bit heavier, a little bit more deck construction required. Whereas Marvel Champions is nice. Every time you buy a hero, they have a pre-constructed set. They're not always the best, but at least they're very playable out of the box, all of them. Where Lord of the Rings, again, they're revisiting some stuff and they're actually going to release decks that are these pre-constructed decks. So kind of taking lessons learned from Marvel Champions and applying it to Lord of the Rings. But I'm
not I've never been, into this whole like building a deck before the game begins. I love deck builders, like when you build a deck during the gameplay, but like, so Marvel Champions for me was like perfect in that sense. Like, oh, here it is, play it. Or even when you start like, oh, you can just shift out the leadership for aggressiveness, just shift those out and that's it.
And that's the funny part. And that's when I first started deck building for this game. Well, first of all, I did it right out of the core, right? So you don't have that many options. But I would literally build one leadership and then I would play it with all 6 heroes in the main box. And then I'd build an aggression and try that with all 6 heroes and kind of see how it played differently based on the heroes you have. So, I mean, that's the nice part. Even if you do the pre-constructed decks, you just take out, as you just pointed out, you get 15 cards that are very hero specific, but then the other, 25 cards in that deck, you can just pull those out and add them to anybody else's deck and try it. Now, it's going to work better and worse.
And again, I mean, this is of course, the main part of the game is hand management, which is my favorite way to play games overall. And it's, when I talked about this game before, I always talk about how amazed I am with the design that they like combine the whole like theme and mechanism, so you feel like you're playing a certain hero. Like it really feels different to play, and also depending on what boss you're playing against, you get that totally different like strategy and how to play it. And I just think it's brilliant, and I also like the whole part of discovery. Well, I do that with all games. Like I love discovering the game,
Yeah.
So like this, like, oh, I get a new hero pack, as you say, it's pre-constructed. I just pull that up, start playing it, and like discover, like a Keyforge deck. I was like, oh, well, how am I supposed to play this deck? And it takes a few plays before I realize, okay, I'm probably gonna focus on this and that. And
well, and I've made the mistake of literally, I made it part of my thing. Whenever there's a new deck that comes out, I play it live and discover it with everybody live.
Yeah.
So, but those videos are always the ones that have the most rules mistakes ever. Because first of all, I'm trying to read all the cards, learn it live while watching. But I think the excitement is different when you're learning it live. Like you said, with the new Keyforge deck, as you flip over a card, oh, I've never seen this one before. What does that do? So I get super excited as I'm doing it. And so I think it's worth it that maybe the quality of the video, maybe the quality of the gameplay isn't there where it would normally be. I'm not doing high level strategies, things like that. We do plenty of videos where if you want to see high level strategy with the deck, we'll play it a week later once we've learned it. But that initial video, it's almost like an unboxing and like playing all at once. And so I do that for every new pack that comes out now, just because I think I think it's fun to discover new stuff. As you said, it's very much part of the reason I love Keyforge so much as well.
Yeah. I haven't done a video. I think this is from Gen Con. I actually need to remove my audio. So this is from Gen Con when I played the Hood. And that's like over 6 months ago. So I need to get back to filming this game, of course. And
Hood's tough too.
I've been thinking about and the thing was I was thinking about it back in December, but then I found Imperium. So Imperium has like taken over my. This is sort of in the same slot of games, right? They're not similar, I guess, in gameplay, but
no,
they are similar in the way that I pull them off the shelf. I'm gonna play like this hero today. I'm gonna play like this civilization today, and against this boss or against this civilization. So solo wise, they feel feel similar in that sense. But
that makes sense. Yeah. So I got Imperium set up on my table in the other room right now.
Oh, okay, that's great.
So that's another one that hit me pretty good too. I like that one a lot. We actually just this past Sunday's podcast, so not today, but last Sunday, I had a podcast with Paul Grogan from Gaming Rules. He and I. Oh no, we did Arc Nova. I'm sorry, the Imperium one's coming in a couple weeks. So this is time warp here. I've already recorded an Imperium review, but we haven't posted it yet.
Yeah, he really likes Arc Nova, right?
He loves Arc Nova. Yes. And it's one that's actually, so 99% of the time I've owned or played the game physically before I play on TTS. Arc Nova is the one exception because you
can't get hold of it in the US, right? It's
right.
I read the other day that they were like sending it out now, I think, to pre-orders in the US. So it's coming.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. I look forward to that for sure.
I got I think I got like the last copy in Sweden, basically.
Oh, nice. Oh, so you did get a copy.
Oh, yeah, I did. Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, so for me, the two games, you're right, as far as they do give you that asymmetry where whoever you're playing and whoever you're playing against makes a huge difference in the game. The big difference for me is time commitment. I can pull out Marvel Champions and play in 30 minutes solo, no problem. Whereas Imperium still takes a bit longer than that.
It's a long game. It's like at least over an hour most of the time for me. And with some civilizations, it's like, it's really long. But
and then that's another one also that you can't play cooperatively, which for us is how we typically prefer to play stuff. I think, people have actually complained about the downtime in Marvel Champions as well, especially at higher player counts, 3 and 4 players. But I don't find it to be as bad. Of course, again, quicker gameplay for Marvel Champions, whereas Imperium, the downtime bothered me a little bit more. So, for that one, Imperium, I love playing it solo for sure.
It's a big difference as well. Like, I don't mind downtime as much if it's a co-op game, because then we're still helping each other. I can still talk to the person like, oh, maybe, do this or whatever. While, of course, in a competitive game, I'm not involved at all on your turn. Well, in most games, so... Yeah, so
and I think with Marvel Champions, something they do really well is they let you play actions on other people's turns.
Yeah, that too. Yeah,
and the timing of situations is so important. it's like, well, wait a minute, that's an action. Why don't you hold that till my turn? Because that way I can knock it down. You finish it off with that action, and then you get to do something else that triggers if you finish it off, right?
Yeah.
So like you can definitely there's a lot of talking, and it's funny. I mostly played Marvel Champions with Terrence. He's the one I play with all the time. But this past week, I was supposed to stream. This past Friday, I was supposed to stream with Steve, who's another part of our group, but he just couldn't get on. Like his computer was acting funny that day. So I actually threw it out there to anybody in the chat. I'm like, hey, we had 6 people waiting for the stream to start. I was like, does anybody want to jump on with me? And Mary, who's one of our, pretty loyal viewers, she comes every Friday. She joined us, and it was great. I'd never played with her before. She had never played with this deck before. It wasn't a pre-con. Terrence had actually made the deck.
Okay. Yeah.
And she just jumped right in and played, and it's great. So I feel like it's Marvel Champions is the kind of game where if especially both people know it, but it's certainly the kind of game where you can get to know somebody over. And I don't think the stress is there. It's not that stressful a game where you're like going to yell at each other, or, there's no real-time elements or anything else where you're like really anxious. And yes, you can get unlucky and just lose, but I don't know. There's enough cooperation in the game, but not so much that it's like overly stressful. So, it hits a very nice balance for me that way.
Yeah. I as I said, I really need to get back to playing more. Have you played through the campaigns as well? The different expansions? Yeah.
Yeah, I played through every campaign. Some I go back to, some I don't. Honestly, it's hard to go back and do the whole campaign. Yeah. I certainly play them a lot as one-offs. So I'll play like against Taskmaster, or I'll play against Thanos, or I'll play against Nebula or whatever else. But I won't necessarily go back and play the campaign front. We played Collector 2 Friday night. That's what we played against. So we didn't play the whole Galaxy's Most Wanted campaign. We just played the 3rd mission in that campaign.
I need to get that Thanos expansion. That looks really cool. That looks like something I would enjoy. I have everything up until that one. So I will say so the campaigns have different flavors to them. Red Skull was a perfect first campaign. It was a little bit more complexity than the base box, but they didn't really play with the mechanics as much as they've been doing now. So none of the missions were like overly complicated or overly hard to do. None of the bosses that you were fighting against and the heroes they had in there were, not straightforward. And in fact, Spider-Woman's still one of the most interesting to deck build with in the game, because she's the only champion that you can use 2 different aspects. Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And she came in that first expansion box. So I think the first one was a good first expansion. Galaxy's Most Wanted went too far. I don't know if you played that one.
I haven't. I have it in my shelf, but what I heard is that it, like, because I'm scared of that. In like I feel that happened to Keyforge, and it happens to some other games as well, where as the game is being released, it's nice and smooth. It runs fast, and then they just add mechanisms upon mechanisms with every expansion.
The mechanisms aren't too bad in there, but the difficulty, they ramped it up to 11 on that one. So if you're not really deck building for some of those, like Collector 2, I said we played yesterday, it plays a lot like a Lord of the Rings scenario, because most of the time in Marvel Champions, the goal is to beat down the villain. Collector 2 doesn't do that. In Collector 2,
it takes your stuff, right? Or isn't?
No, that's Collector 1.
Okay.
So Collector 2 is escaping the museum, is what it's called. So there are 2 back-to-back collector missions. One where he takes your stuff, adds it to his collection, and you're managing that the whole time. Oh my gosh, that one, especially with certain deck builds, can be an absolutely nightmare to get through. And it's only the 2nd mission of the campaign. The 3rd one was actually a little bit easier, because your threat management's really important, but it's the only one where it's really the victory condition as well as the loss condition a lot of times. So you need to remove all the threat from the main scheme, and then you progress to the next area. So it's got a nice narrative story arc to it. They reuse this a little bit in the newest campaign with, I forget which, Hela. In the new one, in the Thanos one, is they do something very similar, but I think they did it a little bit better in that one. So honestly, a lot of times if people are just getting in, I actually recommend they skip the Galaxy's Most Wanted, even though it's got some of my favorite heroes in the game. Not necessarily in the core box, but in that Galaxy's Wave. I love Guardians of the Galaxy and that stuff. But if you're just getting in, I would say, unless you just absolutely love Guardians of the Galaxy, that is one I'd typically skip and go to this new campaign, because I think they got the difficulty more correct again in the newest one, which is the Thanos box.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, because with all of these games, like, I feel like that's also a big hurdle. Like, if you weren't there from the start, like, where do you begin and all that? And I guess there's guides on that on YouTube, like where to pick up. But I mean, if people just, I usually said, when people ask me, I just said, like, well, just get the base box. Like, then you find out if you like the game or not. But then, of course, most gamers, I guess, like me, are like, oh, well, I want to have everything, or like, I want
it all.
Yeah.
What's the order you buy it in? Yeah, you hear that a lot. And I mean, for me, I always recommend Red Skull first.
Yeah.
Like I said, I think it is the perfect first step for the game. It gives you 5 more villains. So the base box has 3 villains. Rise of Red Skull, and every campaign has 5 villains. And again, you don't have to play them in the campaign. You could play them one-off. Yeah. No problem. So it gives you 5 more villains to fight against, and gives you 2 heroes, both of which I like. Spider-Woman and Hawkeye is one of my favorites. So
I need to. Now, I played partially. I played like part of that, but then I also kind of, like you talked about before there, with like discovering things on live stream. Like, I have this idea that I have every year that it's like, oh, well, I'm not gonna dive into this campaign off cam, because I want to save it for when I do it live stream, so that I can discover it as I'm playing it. Problem is, if I never have time or get around to do that, then it's just sitting on my shelf. So I need to do that.
There's so many games, and as reviewers and people who make content, it's hard. And that's part of the reason I've kind of committed to this Friday night Marvel Champions stream, is because I wanted to play games that I wanted to play. Yeah. And Marvel Champions has really stuck with me. It's a game that I really like. I mean, I think hopefully just through what we've talked about today, you've heard, a lot of the reasons I do like it. And honestly, I think it's a great solo game, but I think it's a better 2-player game. Yeah. I don't know about 3 and 4 players. I don't actually play it that much at higher player counts. It's fine, but I do think there is more downtime, and it might even get a little much for me. If it was 3 people, like if I was playing with 4 people and everybody knew the game real well, I don't think I'd have a problem with it. But I do think the game is best, especially as you're learning, as a 2-player game. And solo works just great. It's just a little more swingy as a solo game than it is 2-player.
But do you, because I played it on 2, but when I played solo, I always play 2-handed. So
yeah, I don't. I often play one-handed solo.
I
now it's swingy for sure, no question about it.
Yeah, because I feel like there's a lot of like we mentioned, the cooperation between the players or the characters. So I feel like if I would be just playing one character, I would miss. It's like Spirit Island. I like playing that 2-handed as well, solo, because like there are synergies between the characters. So
you're absolutely right. I'm just not smart enough to handle two-handed. I mean,
Draco's doing all the mind work, and I just handle the cards for him. So he's telling me what to do. So it's
nice. Nice. Yeah. No, for me, it's a lot to process. I'm not somebody who can. I mean, people who have watched me stream know that I have a hard enough time controlling one and getting everything right. There's zero chance that if I control 2 characters, that I'd get everything right. The other thing is, I like how fast it plays one-handed.
I can imagine.
It's swingier, but I'll be done in 30 minutes. No question about it. Like 30 minutes or less. I do something called running the gauntlet, where I just play against a bunch of different villains back to back using the same deck. And I mean, it's usually about 30 minutes a game, if not less. So
I can see that
huge advantage of single-handed.
And I would like to try it on like 3 and 4 at some point, but I also feel like it's hard to. Again, it's one of those games where it's like I don't know. For me, it's hard to get to the table. Like, my gaming group is mainly into like Euros, sort of like trading or economical games. So to convince them, I've been trying, but it's hard to convince them to like, oh, let's do a Marvel Champions evening. And now I'm trying to get them to play Imperium with me on like 3 or 4. So
and I'm the opposite. My group is mostly into co-op stuff. and doesn't and mostly, you know, very thematic games.
Yeah.
And for me, I love all games. So
Yeah.
for me, some
Yeah,
of my
same
favorite
here.
games
Yeah.
are like Gaia Project,
Yeah.
and I'm trying to think of some of the other ones that I never get to the table anymore. Underwater
Oh
Cities,
yeah. That's great.
and you know, even Ark Nova. I mean, there's no just getting it to the table with my group Brass. You know, it's just, yeah, it's like pulling teeth.
Yeah.
It's like I got to call in a favor every once in a while to get people to play Euros. So that's the other thing I've started doing, is streaming solo Euros on
Oh
our
yeah.
channel.
Yeah. Yeah. I saw that, and I I kind of. I mean, I'm like Omni gamer, as you, I guess. I mean, I like all kind. It depends on the mood, right? And depends on. But like Orc Nova really caught me here. Like I'm up to, what is it, like I think 7 weeks, and I'm trying to do what you're doing there. Like I'm putting out Orc Nova every Friday, like a solo
Oh,
playthrough.
nice.
So I'm playing through all the different maps.
Yeah.
But that's gonna be this week was number 7, I think. So there's 2 more weeks to go. There's 8 maps plus the 0 map.
Yep.
So then after that, I will have like free Fridays, and of course I don't want to stream at the same time you do, but I will start like maybe picking up some other game, and maybe
I
Marvel
don't think
Champions.
you'll stream at the same time as me. We stream at 10 p.m. Eastern time.
Eastern.
So,
oh wow.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
in the middle of
so
night for
that's
me. Yeah.
GMT -5. Yeah, no, I think you're good.
Yeah, then we're good. Yeah. No, I just realized it's yeah. But I mean, so yeah, so maybe in a few weeks you'll get like Marvel Champions. Then you can start the evening or the afternoons, depending on where you live, with physical Marvel Champions stream, and then you can move on to your stream later on in the evening. So because
Yeah.
I would like,
and actually,
I would
a
like
lot
to
of our
play.
European people will jump in for the end of our streams.
Oh, really?
So they're just waking up.
Oh, they're waking up. Yeah,
they're waking up, you know, and they'll join us for the end of our streams. So yeah, we started. I mean, we both work. Terrence and I both work. So
yeah.
by the time I get the kids down and everything
Oh,
else,
yeah,
10
yeah.
o'clock is pushing it sometimes even. But you know, it's a commitment that my wife knows I do once a week.
Yeah.
So
I mean, this is a good game in that sense. To like, I could do that for like you're doing, like week after week after week, and keep it fresh, and so on.
There's so much, right? I mean, so people want to know, you know, when you're doing reviews, like, why would I want this game, or why would I want to buy this game? And I think we've touched on it a little bit, but there's just so much out there, right?
Yeah.
And even with a little bit, there's so much you can do with it. And so many, like, you could, like I said, you take one leadership aspect, you build it however you want, and you could play it with all 6 core box heroes.
Yeah.
And then you buy a couple more heroes and you try it with them as well. Oh, and there's another leadership card that came in there that I really want to try too. So let me add that into my deck of 25 cards, and we'll see how that works out. So, I mean, the one thing I didn't realize until I started streaming and watched a lot of other people who are also streaming is how many ways you can play this game.
Yeah.
One of the other streaming podcasts, one of their big things is they wanted to do speed runs. So they try to get through the campaigns in the fewest number of turns possible. So they build these like super aggressive decks where they're just attacking. So you could do that. You know, you could slow play the game and build up and build up and build up. One of the other channels likes to do the craziest challenges in the world, like shoot 10 arrows with Hawkeye on one turn, which I didn't even know was possible, but they, you know, they find ways to do it. You know, you could play it on super easy mode where you're really showing off the strengths of your heroes, right? Your hero likes to take out a bunch of minions. Well, put in a bunch of modulars that add a bunch of minions and play against a, you know, a champ or an enemy that has a lot of minions. And then you could do super cool things like hundreds of points of damage as you're hitting all of them at the same time. Terrence and I, the way we typically do it, because Terrence is sadistic, he'll come up with the most stupid things possible. Like Taskmaster hates when your hero flips, you know, so changes forms or whatever. So we do heroes that love to change forms and play against Taskmaster to like the exact opposite of what you should do, which is this beatable? And usually we find out that no, it's not. But we'll get there eventually. But you know, so we challenge ourselves like stupid stuff the other way, whereas other people like to show off the good aspects of things. And I think both are very viable ways to play. It really depends on what you're in the mood for.
I like that you can. I like that there are that depth that you can like deep dive that way, and like because and again like it's rare that I get to do that with games because there's always new games coming in. But I mean, just just sitting down and playing through everything sort of once at least first is would be really fun. And then, as you say, there's always room for that. Like, okay, well, how do I build the decks and combine and all that with different heroes? And so I want you to ask you, maybe it's a hard question, but do you have like a favorite hero or like a few that you favor?
Oh yeah, I've got plenty. We've done top 5 lists.
Ah,
I mean, we've done all kinds of stuff. So Black Widow is probably my number one favorite hero still to
okay.
this day. She's being pushed a little bit by Venom. Venom's a
Oh,
lot
the
of fun as
new
well.
one here, yeah.
He's got a lot of guns, so he's not like the Eddie Brock Venom you're used to. He's definitely, I forget what his name is, but he's all about guns and weapons, and he can just do a little bit of everything. Like he's got this multi-gun which can remove 2 threat or do 2 damage or do 1 damage to everybody engaged with you. So it's just like he's got a lot of flexibility, and his other pistols just add 1 to one of his base stats. So he might only be able to normally attack for 2 or thwart for 2, but then for each of these pistols he has, it gets +1 to that stat, and even defense as well.
Okay.
So like he can be kind of a jack of all trade or any trades. That's why I like him. But the reason I like Black Widow is she is such a jerk. Like
I think I played.
so,
yeah, I did play her. I don't remember details. But...
she's got these preparation cards where you put them in play in front of you.
That's her.
And basically, whenever the villain tries to do anything, she goes, "No, you can't do that.
Oh, yeah,
no,
yeah,
you can't do that."
Yeah, that's good.
And she not only when she plays it, she denies the villain what they're trying to do, but she also does damage every time she does that. And a lot of times it'll ready her as well whenever she does that. So I've never been a blue player in Magic where you just basically cancel everything that the opponent's trying to do and like frustrate them, and you lose friends that way. I know because some of my friends played blue Magic and I wanted to not talk to them for a few days afterwards. But when you're doing it in a co-op game against the AI, it feels really fun and clever, right? like I don't mind being a jerk to the game itself.
Exactly. Yeah, that's fine. And it. I mean, I haven't played all of them, obviously, but I really liked Ant-Man when I played him. I thought that was really cool, just how they, just like, oh, well, let's have 3 forms instead of 2. Like, just, that's such a clever game design. And then just like how it actually feels like Ant-Man, like it makes sense. And I guess that goes for a lot of them, but.
Well, and I think you'll like some of the newer ones. Then Spectrum as well. She has 3 different energy forms she can switch between. Now she can't do it willy-nilly. So I guess we should explain. I don't know if everybody's going to know Marvel Champions out there, but bottom line is normally you have an alter ego side and you have a hero side, and you can switch between those 2 sides once a turn. Ant-Man gave you a 3rd option. You could be small form or big form as well. Well, Spectrum, when you switch from alter ego to your hero side, you have to pick one of 3 energy forms to be. And she can't really switch between them herself, but she has a lot of her deck switches her between forms. Yeah. And so if you switch to her damaging form, it'll do like a bunch of damage. If you switch to her thwarting form, it'll do so she can do everything. She just can't do it all at once and pick and choose as easily as she'd want to. They're messing around with forms a lot more because there's another hero that just came out that has multiple forms as well. I can't think of it right now, but that is definitely. But the way they did it with Ant-Man and Wasp was special because they didn't do it with a separate card. They literally had a card that was like a giant card that was sandwiched together.
It's
so
like...
you had your 2 sides, and then you open it up, and you have your giant side, and that was just so cool. Not necessarily practical if you're a sleever. But
yeah, exactly.
So cool.
How are you supposed to sleeve that?
Well, I have mine behind me. So I got one of those sliding sleeves. So it's a big sleeve that's got a slider on the other side. So you either flip it to the giant side or, I mean, honestly, I would probably just rather play without it sleeved, and because it's such a cool thing to open it up. And
I haven't sleeved mine just because, I mean, it's not like I'm going to wear it down either. It's like you don't shuffle that card or whatever. So.
Exactly right. So it doesn't need to be sleeved.
Do you have any have you checked out the upcoming stuff? Do you have any idea of what it's going to be about?
I know the next big box set that's coming out is going to be Into the Spider-Verse.
Yeah.
The thing I'm most excited about coming from that is I think it's one of the first character expansions is going to be Spider-Ham. which is, I don't know if you've seen
No,
Into the Spider-Verse movie.
no, no.
He's a pig basically in a Spider-Man outfit.
Okay.
So is Peter Porker is his
Oh,
is his alter
oh, that's
ego,
great. Yeah.
and he's Spider-Ham. So he's going to be the first. I mean, I don't know if I call him a joke character, but I mean, I think it's fun that they're not afraid to explore that,
Yeah.
you know, a little bit of comedy in there as well.
So Brandt is saying that Vision has an intangible dense form card. Is that also
Yes.
like different?
That's what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Vision's one of the ones that
Yeah.
has multiple forms too. Now he can freely switch between them, but the thing that's weird about Vision is, and no other, he almost has 4 ways to use it, because whether he's dense or or tangible, or dense or intangible, I think are the 2.
Yeah.
Like it affects not only his hero side, but it affects his alter ego side as well. Like whatever form he's in, either gives him bigger hand size or lets him heal for more or whatever else. So it's he's a very Vision's very thinky character.
That's cool. Way. I always thought like, now, are you into like the whole comics? Like, do you know all the characters and so on, like from the comics, or?
So MCU, the Marvel Cinematic Universe, is really where I have most of my knowledge.
Yeah, same here.
From.
Yeah.
I have not been a comic book reader. You know, honestly, Marvel, I've liked it. I've certainly, the movies have gotten me more into it, but I was never a comic book reader growing up. I never.
We're similar there. So for me, it was like, I watched the MCU, of course. And I'm like Vision seems like OP. And
yeah.
I mean, I really want to play this hero. This is one I really need to pick up, the hero pack.
Yeah, no, they've done a decent job of balancing the heroes against each other. Where even if you're playing Hawkeye, he's not going to feel like, you know, if Hawkeye went up against Thor or Vision, I don't think it would be very pretty for Hawkeye in the long run. But in the game, they made them all, they're at least somewhat equivalent power level. At least they tried.
Yeah, I saw that. I got Disney Plus again. I saw that they had this. I haven't had it for like a year or something. And then I'm like, oh, so there's a Hawkeye series. I'm like, I'm not that interested in Hawkeye. Like, I think he's a cool guy, but he doesn't feel like, is he a superhero? Like, I don't know.
I mean, but they play with that in the series.
Okay, yeah.
So I did like the Hawkeye series. In fact, I think my son or my wife said it was their favorite of. We've watched all the MCU series, and not just the MCU ones, but the Star Wars ones as well. So for my wife, I think Hawkeye was her favorite. For my daughter and I think it's WandaVision still. Like I like the mystery behind that and everything else. But
well, I think that, like, usually usually I haven't done this for that many weeks, but usually I'm trying to do some kind of review, but I guess it's kind of pointless at this point in the stream, because we already talked about why we like the game, and it's like, it's part of the whole chat basically. So, but I mean, for me, I given it a 9 on Board Game Geek, and I named it my favorite card game in my top 10 card games recently. Just about.
Was Imperium pushing that for you?
No, just above Imperium. Because I think World Champions has, it feels like an more open, wider game, and I guess Imperium are more, it's not restricted, it's not the correct word, but it's,
well, no, I think that's right. I think it's restricted to what you have.
Yeah,
like if you play Rome against Xerxes or several times, it's not gonna feel the same, certainly, because different cards are going to come out in different order, but it would feel, whereas I think Marvel Champions, even if you played the same hero against the same villain, you can change aspects. There's more tweakability to Marvel Champions, where you can change more stuff.
Yeah.
You can change modulars that you add to it. I mean, I don't know how much you've experimented with that, but different modulars make villains feel completely different.
Oh, yeah. Well. Yeah, I tried a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, there's more levers you can play with.
And also, I like the whole, like, again, Imperium, I haven't even played it more than, I only played it solo. So therefore it's hard for me to say like it's hard for me to rank it in a sense. And again, Marvel Champions feels like, if you just look at them solo wise, I would say they're pretty similar for me. But then I played Marvel Champions on 2 and really enjoy that as well. and the whole
Yeah.
co-op aspect, which I can't get in Imperium. So
absolutely. Now, are you more of a co-op gamer? More, I know you said you're an Omni gamer, but like, what are some of your favorite games? But outside of these.
Well, my favorite game, it's a mix. Like most of them these days are co-op games that I can also play solo, basically, because that way I get to play them a lot. But I mean, it's been over the years. I mean, like Gloomhaven is my favorite game of all time.
Okay.
But I played it mostly solo. So
yeah,
and I mean, like
a good guy.
Terraforming Mars is one of my favorite games through the years here, and so on. So I think overall I like co-oping, but it comes down to who I'm playing it with, sort of. Like,
of course.
I mean, I'm not. What I don't like is almost easier to say. What I don't like is when a game gets too competitive.
Yeah.
So that you're just like, well, I'm gonna do this move because that gives me the most points. It's not the most fun to do, but it's the best, like, to win.
Yeah.
When it gets to that point, it gets boring for me. I like it when it's more like, and in my gaming group, most of the time, everyone is like, oh, well, we played Great Western Trail a lot, but everyone is like interested in finding new ways to play it. Like, oh, could you do this instead? And you might not win, but you had fun doing it. So
yeah,
I like that attitude in terms of gaming more than the whole, like, the only game I played really competitive is Keyforge, but that's different when it's like 2 players against each other. Then I don't mind it as much with the.
I agree with you 100% on that, because I love Keyforge head to head as well, and I did play in some tournaments for Keyforge, but the Keyforge communities was very, I mean, at least the ones that I had experience with were usually very nice and friendly and welcoming, and so it didn't feel as competitive, even though it's competitive, because I think everybody realizes, like, there's card draw and there's nothing you can do about your deck, right?
And deck strength, have it.
And some decks are going to be better than others. But I think mostly played sealed, which means you just open it and play with it.
Yeah.
And so because of that, I think people just realize, you know what, sometimes you're going to get a bum deck and it's okay. Then you just go out to enjoy yourself.
Yeah, and then it's more like, oh, can I win one of the 3 or 4 games in this tournament?
Right, like, yeah. Can I do anything? Or this deck seems so good, why can't I win with it?
Yeah.
My best deck for Keyforge, I did end up buying online because I wanted, I think it's been a while since I played Keyforge. I think it's a card called Epic Quest, which is like one of the worst cards in the game. I feel like you'd never get Epic
so much
Quest
fun.
off.
Yeah.
But I bought this deck because it had resurrections. So Epic Quest, you have to have like 6 knights in play or whatever.
Yeah.
And like you get rid of them all at the same time. You clear your own board to like forge one of the 3 keys you need to win. I feel like it's like one of the hardest cards to get off. But this deck had a decent number of knights, and it had like these cards that let you resurrect your dead cards. And I'm like, oh, I can resurrect all my knights, and then I can play them all, and I could get this Epic Quest card off. Well, it turns out that part of the deck wasn't very good. And the deck, actually, somebody had apparently played it in tournament, and they went like 1-3 because it had like rankings already.
Yeah.
I bought it for like $15 online. But then the thing I realized about it is it had a mechanism to lock up the other player. I said I don't like being a jerk, but actually this Keyforge deck is a complete jerk because it had a card called Restring Guntis, which basically said you can't play this aspect anymore. And so I would completely lock people out of the game with the deck, and that was its win condition. And you had all these knights, which Sanctum, which is one of the houses, the Knight House, their whole job is to protect other cards. So they did such a good job of protecting this one card. That's like this one health guy that like completely shut down other people's games. So
but I love that as well, the key cheats, when you can make a key out of the normal key fortune
outside of normal play.
But so let's end the stream on Marvel Champions. So thank you so much, Peter, for joining us.
It was great to be here. Thanks for having me.
I mean, I feel like we could be talking for another hour, but I'm aiming to have these for 1 hour streams.
Yep, absolutely. No, we'll call it. But thanks for having me. And I mean, Marvel Champions, if you haven't tried it, I think you're right. Go out, try the base box. See if you enjoy it. I would say try to play at lower player counts if you have a choice. One thing I've been doing to teach people, not only Marvel Champions, because I've done Marvel Champions is the first game I did it with, but I'm starting to do it with a lot of other games. Art Nova and Imperium I'm doing it with as well, which is teaching people by having them play solo. And that way I am not worried about my turns or anything else. I can totally focus on them and make sure that they're understanding the rules, and it shortens the rules teach up front because I don't have to teach them everything. When they get new options, I can explain it to them because I'm not focused on my hand or what I'm doing, or because I'm usually playing with my kids. What'll happen is I'll slow myself down, or it'll come to a screeching halt when it becomes my turn because I've clearly not had any focus on my hand. I have no idea what I can do.
That happens a lot. Yeah.
And so now I'm making the experience worse for this new player because I'm the one slowing the game down, not them, right? Like, and so that way, when you teach somebody the game solo, so I would say if you can have somebody teach you solo Marvel Champions and just sit there and kind of help you through, what you can do with your cards, things like that, I think it's a real good way to learn. Or watch some of these live streams. I mean, we do them certainly, but a lot of other people do them as well. Especially, look in the title. A lot of times they'll say for new players or whatever else. But Marvel Champions is also not that complicated where you couldn't pick it up. And it's certainly, if it's a live stream situation, people typically be pretty welcoming and friendly as far as answering any rules questions or anything else you might have as well. So there's lots of ways to do it.
I look forward to playing this more, and I hope we can get together at some point and play against each, or not against each other, together, because this is not competitive. So that would be great to just.
Well, we'll do it on your stream or we'll do it on mine, whichever one you want. We'll schedule something for sure.
Yeah, it would be nice to, and it would be nice to just keep talking about gaming in general. It's been really nice talking to you. So.
Absolutely, very nice talking to you too. I had a blast, and feel free to come over any Friday night, or I'll stream Marvel Champion any night. People know I may do one this afternoon. I thought about it. I'm like, I need to get some Marvel Champions played, even though I just played it 2 nights ago. That's the one thing. Not many games keep bringing me back over and over. A game I've played hundreds and hundreds of times, and I'm still excited to get back and play it. So I don't, when we do reviews, I don't necessarily give it a number score, but for me, I guess it would be a 10. Right. It's the only game I have in my collection where anytime somebody asks me to play, I'm going to want to play. And I have no hesitation. And I think about it when I'm not playing and I want to play, even when I've just finished. So look, not every game's going to be great, right? Like you certainly have some slogs and I'm like done. I don't want to touch Marvel Champions for a couple of days afterwards, but by the next Friday, I'm always ready to play again. Even when you have, sometimes it's just a knockdown, drag out. Like it's the only game I've ever played where you have these highs and lows where it's like, oh man, we're winning next turn. And then the villain will flip over like 10 things that are like horrible. And you're like, no. And then it takes like 3 more turns. And again, that could be considered a bad thing for some people. But then when you overcome that and you find a way past it, it's just so cool. Or there's this card Shadows of the Past, which is like the worst card. It's not balanced with anything else at all. It's just awful. And sometimes you draw turn 1 and it just makes the whole game. You're like, well, this is going to be a loss. But then when it's not, and you can overcome it, you can, make these epic comebacks, and it just feels so good. And that's one of my favorite things about the game is it just has these moments where you feel so clever because you have to be. You really do. You're the one in charge of your hand management, and you have to make these decisions that really make or break your game. And so it just makes me feel clever every time I play it. So, man, I'm going to play it now.
I need to play it soon as well. Well, thanks to everyone who's been watching. If you watch this afterwards, let us know in the comment section if you have any questions or, anything you want to bring up. I love to get more input, on the game, because I still feel like I'm fairly new to the game, even though it's my favorite card game because I love to play it. But I'd like to I like to get more into in the future. I like to get more into the whole okay, so what is how could I play we talked about with the different aspects and the different deck building. I haven't done that much yet, so that's something I really need to explore. So.
Well, and I don't mind playing a starter box game with you as well. I know a lot of people in the community don't like doing that, but I don't mind the starter decks at all. I'll play right out of the box with you, 2 starter deck heroes against the villain of our choice. I still think that's fun. That's another way to do it. In fact, it took me forever to break down my starter sets so I could build other decks. I just wanted to keep them in their starter decks for a long time. So,
oh well, now I just came to think about another topic that's interesting with organization, but we'll leave that for another day, I guess, because that's something I'm into now. Like, oh, how am I supposed to organize this and have like dividers and all that?
I will say, if you get the big boxes, I've got everything in the big boxes. So the main core box and 2 expansion boxes. So they come divided down the middle, where as long as you get dividers, you can actually store everything in the boxes. I've got an extra one in the other room because I only need 3 of them, and I own everything in the game. No, I don't sleeve. If I sleeved, I probably would need all of the boxes. But even without sleeving, I fit everything in the core box and 2 of the expansion boxes.
All right. Well, thank you so much, and I'll be back. And Drako will be back next Sunday. Another game that's going to be the game of the week. I haven't decided yet, as usual. It's coming during the next week here. I'll announce it as a live stream event, so then you'll see what's all about next week. And hopefully some other guests or some interview and so on. So thank you so much for this stream, and take care. Have a great evening, morning, or whenever you're watching. Bye-bye.
Bye.